In the past few months, it's become very obvious to me that I have to focus or I will make myself crazy. So I would like to know, because you know everything that, it's been happening to me and all that. So do you have any messages from my inner being?
Well, your inner being is always broadcasting to you, and we understand why you would ask us, because if you're not consistently in the vortex, even though your inner being is broadcasting utter appreciation and knowledge of who you are and is offering well-being, because your inner being is selfishly, hear this, tending to its own vibration, your inner being will not leave the vortex to find you wherever you are to lead you back in. Isn't that interesting? Your inner being maintains its vibrational frequency knowing that you will find it. Don't you love having an inner being who has that kind of confidence within you? Don't you love having an inner being who is projecting to you this powerful energy of well-being, knowing that you will find whiffs of it, that here and there you will find it, and as you follow it, in other words, how do you think you found us? How do you think you found this trail? How do you think you found this information? It's because you were close enough to the broadcasting of your inner being that it resonated with you when you found it. And if you will maintain enough selfishness to care about how you feel, you'll practice the energy of your being enough to know that you will know of yourself what your inner being knows, you see.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes.
We snuck in from the back door.
I think with the whole giving and receiving thing, I'm just trying to figure out how we in the physical and the non-physical part of us is working.
Well, before you go further, we want to hear that question, and we know you have it firmly, so we won't distract you from it. But we want to just put this in because it will make everything more clear later. So let's say someone is feeling unappreciated, and they want to be appreciated. It feels so good when someone holds you as their object of attention and adores you or appreciates you. But they're not feeling that. They're seeing others get it, but they're not feeling it. They sort of have their tail between their legs, and things aren't going that well for them, and they're feeling sort of down and out, and like things are unfair, and people aren't treating them like they want to be treated, and on it goes. And so this person is wanting to know from us, how can I be more appreciated? And our answer is always the same. Find something to appreciate. Because as you find something, whatever it is, a flower, a butterfly, a cat or a dog, a rainbow, a cloud, a dolphin jumping, something good to eat, as you find anything to appreciate, as you offer your appreciation, your vibration raises, because you can't appreciate without being a vibrational match to source energy. And when you're appreciating, now you are the attractor of appreciation. But you can't control what others are doing. You can't control the appreciative state of others, because you can't stand on your head in enough different ways to get someone who's out of the vortex to appreciate you. And when you try, you will pronounce yourself a failure. But you can become an avid appreciator. And what you begin to discover is it was never someone else's appreciation of you that you were looking for. It was your alignment with the energy of love, with the energy of source, with the energy of appreciation. That's what fills you up, you see. You get so full of it that it doesn't matter to you what others are flowing to you other than, and it's sort of where we began here today, it is so delicious to be the recipient of someone's appreciation because it means they're in the vortex. So it turns out you can't be selfish. You can't adore appreciation from another and separate yourself from your gladness of their alignment, you see. You see how it works?
Yes.
You cannot be an appreciator without being appreciated. And it turns out it's being the appreciator that matters most, you see. That's why your inner being stands in a state of never-ending appreciation and adoration of that which you are, has practiced the vibration of that so eternally that that is all that can be offered from the source within you. And when you find a different vibrational stance, then you separate yourself from that. And then we come along and say, we want you to be so selfish that you care about aligning with that energy that creates worlds. And then, like your inner being, you become an uplifter. Only you're like the satellite dish that's beamed in a little closer, you see. So when you say, Abraham, what was your question to us?
The giving and the receiving, how it works from the physical and from the non-physical.
So that answers it well. In other words, the giving puts you in the vibrational stance of the receiving. But if you've got your sights on receiving and you're not in alignment, it can't come to you. And that's when you start making claims of deprivation, you see. There are so many people standing outside the vortex asking others to help them, not understanding that anyone who does help them when they're outside the vortex has to come outside the vortex with them. And so the help doesn't go on very long before it begins to be resented. That's why needy people will suck you dry of your alignment, you see. So now let's go back to something, because you ask such a pure question and there is a pure answer. The basis of it is in understanding that the problem and the solution are entirely different vibrations, just as the question and the answer are different vibrations. So if you have a friend or know someone who needs something, and you focus on their need long enough, you will leave the vortex, and then you will associate the terrible way you feel with their need. And in time, your friendship will disintegrate, because you will incorrectly associate the way you feel with their plight. But if you remember that in their problem, they are generated a solution, and you stay in your vortex where you see not their problem, but instead you know only the solution, as you practice the vibration of the solution, then you can be a catalyst that inspires them into the vortex, depending on where they are. Now, some of your friends who you have been influential with will follow you relatively easily into the vortex, and you will revel in their discovery of their solution, you see. But some of your friends will stubbornly defend their rightfulness and will argue so powerfully and profoundly and chronically for their own limitations that for you to engage with them, you will have to leave the vortex. You will have to introduce the same resistance into your frequency that they've got going on, even to communicate with them at all. So that's where this giving and receiving conversation gets a little dicey, because, and it's the reason that people are concerned about selfishness. In other words, there are a whole horde of people outside the vortex who really believe that your gift is not of value to them unless you sacrifice in some way. In other words, if it's not painful for you to give to them, then your gift isn't validated by them. Yeah, have you ever had that experience? And the thing that's tricky is, if you manage to get outside the vortex in order to give your gift, then it's not very long before you're hightailing it back into the vortex, because you can feel your very life is being sucked away from you, you see. So here's the dicey part. If you stay in your vortex, truly aligned with their solution, when they are unable to see their solution, they'll call you selfish, because they know not. They cannot understand that in your selfishness that you are holding them in their highest good, and that it is the best thing that you can do to call them forward also, you see. So then, but if you stick to it and you maintain your frequency of it, then the universe will bring them to you at times when they can hear you best. And as you begin to revel in their solutions consistently, in time, they will begin to hear it. They will begin to recognize the validity of what you speak. In other words, let's say you're in the vortex and they're not, and this person is saying, you don't love me, you won't even call me, you don't give me your attention anymore, you don't bring me flowers anymore, you don't do what you used to do. And from inside the vortex and from outside the vortex, you would get defensive. And you would say, well, you're not fun to be with, and that's and it just gets worse. But from inside the vortex, you would say, oh, there are so many things about you that I love, and I think about them all the time. In fact, I make lists of your positive aspects. I adore the power with which you live life. I adore the deliberateness with which you intend. I feel the fire in you, and I know the power of your wanting, and I take such pleasure in my understanding that wonderful things are coming to you. I practice every day my positive expectation of the outcome that you're seeking, and I know with everything that I am that a good life is coming to you, because there is no one I've ever known that deserves it more. In other words, when you're in the vortex and you allow law of attraction to bring them to your vicinity, and you selfishly deliver to them your version of who they really are, now you have a possibility of uplifting them into the vortex. But you will never, ever, ever be satisfied, not one time ever, if you allow them to talk you out of the vortex where you're dealing with them on their terms. And so if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would give up the word selfish, and we would replace it with the word aligned. We would give up the word selfish, and we would replace it with the word empowered. We would give up the word selfish, and we would replace it with the word all that I am, with the whole of who I am, with the vortex of who I am.
So self is the whole picture. When we say being selfish, we mean being in alignment. Being self.
If you would add the word true selfish, I'm truly selfish. But the peanut gallery, and we love them dearly, is not ready to hear that from you. They just want you to give them the money. Or they just want you to give them the relief that they're looking for right now. And what you have to decide is, I am not willing to give them short-term relief and sacrifice my position in my vortex. I am after their long-term relief. I'm after their long-term relief.